So what happens when a character spends their whole life building an empire, a fortress of power, only to have the very ground, and the century, ripped out from under them? Today, we're diving into the journey of an anti-hero whose story doesn't just end, it shatters across time itself.
This metaphor is the absolute perfect place to start. It just paints such a vivid picture of what we call a Pyrrhic victory. The anti-hero gets everything he wants, the fortress, the power, but in the process, he completely traps himself. He wins the war, sure, but he builds his own prison, and now he's got to live in it.
And that is the incredible twist we're looking at. What happens when that isolation isn't just social but temporal? When the walls he built to keep everyone out suddenly can't protect him from a world he was never, ever meant to see? This question right here, it turns his victory into this strange metaphysical limbo.
Okay, so to really get a grip on this massive shift, we first have to understand the man at the center of it all, Cillian. His entire journey is like a dark mirror of the classic hero's tale. He's not a savior. He is the architect of his own ruin.
His story, this dark monomyth, it basically follows three big acts. First, there's a predatory departure. He leaves because of ambition, not some noble duty. Then comes the ruthless initiation, where he just leans into his absolute worst impulses. And finally, the isolated return, where he gets his prize and has to enjoy it all alone. At its core, Cillian's motivation is actually pretty simple. The source material calls it honest greed. And I love that because he doesn't pretend to be a good guy. He is completely transparent about wanting wealth and power just to escape a life he thinks is mediocre. There's almost a weird kind of purity to his corruption, you know? And that greed, well, it leads him down an incredibly dark path. He systematically chooses power over people every single time. He sacrifices refugees to get his hands on some gold, he assassinates leaders to climb the ladder, and in the end, he gets exactly what he wanted, a tainted elixir. He's got the wealth, all right, but zero of the peace that's supposed to come with it. So here's the key takeaway. By the end of his original journey back in the 12th century, he's basically won. He is the master of the old world he came from and the new one he clawed his way into. But he's a ghost in both. He's feared, he's alone, he has everything, which means he really has nothing at all. But this very carefully built prison of his, it's about to be completely shattered. Cillian is about to be thrown from his lonely victory right into a temporal abyss. Just picture it. He's at the absolute peak of his ambition. He is the master of a fortress built on nothing but betrayal and bloodshed. And then a mysterious mist rolls in. The source calls this a secondary call to adventure, which is interesting, but unlike his first called opportunity, this is one he can't cheat, he can't manipulate. It's a force of nature that just takes him. In an instant, all that mastery means absolutely nothing. I mean, the sheer scale of his displacement is just staggering. He gets ripped from a world of swords and feudal loyalties and dropped smack dab in the middle of the concrete jungle of 1970s America. We're talking a world of economic stagflation, post-Vietnam cynicism, and a kind of ruthlessness that's way more complex and systemic than anything he's ever known. So how in the world does a medieval predator survive in this totally alien jungle? This is where his story gets really, really fascinating. He has to learn the modern art of greed. And the irony here is just incredible. He lands in a society that is a perfect mirror of his own internal corruption. The 1970s was the golden age of the anti-hero in movies and books. It was a time of deep distrust in institutions, where characters like Travis Bickle were reflecting this failed American dream. So, in the most twisted way possible, he's kind of come to the right place. But all his old tricks? They're gone. His sword is a museum piece. His noble titles mean nothing. His pile of 12th century gold is a historical curiosity, not cash. He is forced into what the source calls a second initiation. He has to evolve, or he's going to die. It's that simple. And here we can see exactly how he adapts. It turns out his core motivation, his greed, it's a universal language. The blade gets replaced by the cutthroat tactics of predatory industry. His noble title gets swapped for the power structure of, say, organized crime. And his simple, honest greed finds its modern philosophical counterpart, rational egoism. The predator just changed its camouflage. So after all this adapting and surviving, what has he become? Well, he's now something else entirely. A ghost wandering through time, an eternal outsider. He becomes what some scholars call an unhero. Now, he's not trying to be a social critic or anything, but his very presence, his ancient, brutal way of thinking, it accidentally exposes all the decay in the modern system. He becomes a walking, talking mirror that society is forced to look into. Probably the best metaphor for him now is a living jack-o'-lantern. Think about it. Just like the Irish legend of Stingy Jack migrated to America and the carved turnips became pumpkins, Cillian is a piece of living folklore ripped from his roots. He is the eternal outsider, physically stuck in the 20th century but spiritually chained to the 12th, completely unable to ever truly belong.
And that, right there, is the ultimate tragedy of his story. His victory is and always will be completely hollow. He has proven that he has the raw, predatory instinct to survive in any era you drop him in, but that missed, that random act of fate, has cursed him to wander forever. He is perfectly adapted for chaos, but he is forever denied a home.
So I'll leave you with this one final thought to chew on. In a world of backroom deals, systemic rot, and impersonal corporate greed, does the straightforward, brutal honesty of a 12th century monster start to look almost quaint? Almost honest? It's a pretty dark irony to think about.